Hello and welcome to another episode of It Came From the Page. And I was thinking about how to improve 2023, a year that's not gone off to the best of starts. And I thought, you know what? You know what cures all ailments in life? Dinosaurs! So in all of March, I'm celebrating this by just spending all my time with dinosaurs, from books, movies, everything. Now, I'm about to show you a whole bunch of dinosaur books that I own and I would like to read. There are a lot of them, so I'm obviously not going to get to all of them. So do not worry, this is not one of those, I'm going to read all 2 bajillion of these. That would be a long video if I just showed you 2 bajillion, because I don't even know how big that number is. But hey, if I had them, I would show them. But yeah, so I'm just going to show you some dinosaur books that I have that I would like to read. Now, I'm sure some people in the comments are going to be like, well, that's technically not a dinosaur. Which, fair. Some of these feature prehistoric animals, prehistoric reptiles that also coincided with the existence of dinosaurs. Or they're fictional dinosaurs. Just relax. Just relax. Well, chill, relax. I know it's all good. This is, just relax. First off, this is Primal Rage, the Avatars. I found this in my local used bookstore, and then I looked it up. This book is fucking expensive online. Like, this book goes for like $200 online. So I kind of hope that it sucks so that I can sell it and get some money. I actually found 2 of these at a store when I was like going through the used bookstore. For some reason, they somehow had 2 of these extremely rare books. So I gave it to someone else. So I just gave it to a free random person on the internet. So if they sell it, then they also get $200. So maybe I just gave $200 away. I don't know. Either way, Primal Rage is a 1990s fighting game. Not related, at least in 1990, but like from the 90s. And it is a video game where you have dinosaurs and prehistoric animals and giant creatures fight to the death. You know, as you do. It's a fun 90s silly video game, and I'm all for that. Next up, so I'm including King Kong in this. Specifically because King Kong, of course, has dinosaurs in it. A lot of these might not include information about dinosaurs, so if this is just a King Kong giant ape book, that's okay. We'll just consider it. I'm looking at Gigantopithecus as well, guys. Let's just chill. So this is a nonfiction book about King Kong. I have had a whole bunch of nonfiction books about King Kong because I used to have a podcast called Triassic Park where I wanted to review and examine all dinosaur movies that took place before Jurassic Park. And a big portion of that was exploring all the King Kong movies. So I have at one point read about 20 King Kong books and did a over 3-hour exploration of the making of the original King Kong. I will link that into the show notes. No one listened to it. I spent a lot of time on it, and it was very, very unpopular. So I have a whole bunch of King Kong books in my possession. I stopped doing that podcast because, again, it was very unpopular and a lot of research went into it, so I was putting a lot of effort into something that didn't work. So I have a bunch of stuff related to King Kong that I'm excited to kind of dive into, and I figure what greater excuse than this. This is obviously a bunch of nonfiction, either essays or explorations of the themes in the original King Kong. A similar thing that I'm including is Godzilla in this as well. I love Godzilla. I have a whole bunch of Godzilla books. This is another one that's a nonfiction book, and it is a series of, I believe it's a series of essays on Godzilla. I haven't heard the best things about this, but I figure it's worth a try and worth a read. If nothing else, to just read about people exploring film theories about Godzilla, because who doesn't love that? This is one of the big nonfiction Godzilla books. This is a critical history and filmography of Toho's Godzilla series by David Callett. This is the 2nd edition of that. David Callett is one of the premier voices in Godzilla making of and research. He was actually on the commentary for Criterion's release of the original Godzilla movie when they did that. So he's a big voice in the Godzilla community, and I have started this a few times, but I've never gone through it all. So I thought it would be a great time to kind of go through, and he would explores both his opinions on the movie and give some background information. And yeah, from what I remember, it was really, really good. I just have not got to the full thing, so excited to do that. Another person who I love dearly is Ray Harryhausen, and another part of that research project, Triassic Park, was exploring a few Ray Harryhausen movies. So I had a whole bunch of Ray Harryhausen making of books, one of which is very appropriate, is exploring the dinosaur films of Ray Harryhausen. So I'm very excited to read through that. I love Ray Harryhausen. I love Ray Harryhausen's dinosaur effects. He was a stop-motion filmmaker in the early days of cinema, from the early 40s to when he passed away, unfortunately. He was a legend. If you're young and you don't know anything about the history of special effects filmmaking, look Ray Harryhausen up. He is an absolute legend, and I think all of his movies hold up in the modern day. For the most part. Sometimes the movies themselves are not great, but his effects always are. So he has amazing stop motion effects that I think are unparalleled even in today's filmmaking. Another making of book about King Kong. This is about the Peter Jackson 2005 King Kong, and I quite enjoy that movie. It is very, very long though, and it is very much a meticulous recreation of that original King Kong. So I'm very excited to read something like that. All those Peter Jackson movies of the early 2000s, especially like the Lord of the Rings, always have amazing making of books associated with them. So it will be amazing for nothing more than just looking at how they made all of those props. Because 2005, when they made King Kong, yes, King Kong is CG, but there was a whole bunch of practical things made for that, and I'm just very excited to kind of explore that. Here's a name that you will see quite a bit in this haul. This is the Complete Dinosaur Dictionary by Donald F. Glutt. I was originally planning on doing another podcast, things that never went off. There was going to be a deep dive all about Donald Glutt and his life and what his works were, because, Donald Glutt is somebody who he wrote the novelization for Empire Strikes Back. He technically, and he was the first person to ever write a female Thor in a What If comic, and he's written tons of nonfiction dinosaur stuff, and this is one of those. So I'm excited to kind of dive into these. Now, one of the things to be aware of, and I am aware, please in the comments chill, a lot of these old non-fiction dinosaur books will be hella outdated. I understand, right? That this is not going to be something I can bring to like modern discussions of dinosaurs. This is going to be very outdated. I still enjoy it. I still find these fun books to read. Even though, yes, I understand that a lot of the information inside of that may not be up to the modern standard. That's just kind of how paleontology works. This is a very little Donald Glutt book, but this is a Dinotopia book. I've never read anything from the Dinotopia series. I don't know why, it just missed me when it came out, like it was something I never really got into. But I was, again, doing this Donald Glutt thing, so I bought this. So, I mean, I might as well read it. It's like a little kid's book about dinosaurs. And it just looks fun. Dinotopia is just like a society that lives with dinosaurs. I don't really know much about the actual series itself, but it's very cool to look at, and it sounds like a fun series, so I'm excited to get there. Next up, I have two books that were released in very hard to find, very inconvenient formats. This is Jim Danforth's Dinosaurs, Dragons, and Dramas, Volumes 1 and Volumes 2. These were both put out by Archive Editions. These are wonderful books. Unfortunately, they are very hard to find. I literally had to contact the publisher, and they said, "Oh, I found a box with these the other day." That's the only way I got this one. It was very, very hard to find. And again, these are not on sale anywhere. These are literally EPUB files put on a CD. I don't, again, because they were so nice to send me this and I put a lot of effort into tracking it down, I don't want to say anything mean about the publisher. I do feel like this might be a scenario where the ebook industry is being kind of entered by somebody who doesn't fully understand that these things should probably be on Amazon or anywhere else to buy digitally, because no one's going to be making money off of these anymore. These are wonderful books. If you are interested, please let me know, because again, there's no DRM on these EPUB files. You just take them, drag them, and put them on your desktop, and then you have it to read. And it really just feels like somebody released an ebook and they didn't fully understand how ebooks work. And it's a great book. There's a lot of amazing information in there, and I am kind of sad that Jim Danforth's legacy is contained on things that are very hard to find. If you don't know who Jim Danforth is another special effects filmmaker in that early stop-motion era of filmmaking. He had a huge career, and he's got some wonderful stories. So it's a great books. It's a great series of books to read. It's just very hard to find, which is unfortunate. So if you're interested, we'll talk in the comments. This is a novelization for Gargantua. Gargantua is a movie that was released to kind of rip off Godzilla 1998. This was a miniseries released on Fox. The miniseries is god-awful. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, it's one of the worst giant monster movies ever made, and that's saying something. There are some stinkers in the genre. The novelization is supposed to be much better. It would not be hard to do. Regardless, I'm very excited to get into this and read a trashy novelization. Next up, a series of books that start with something my cats actually told me to read when I did my big cat helping me pick my TBR. I did read a few books from that. And DNF'd one. Sorry, Project Hail Mary. Not for me. But I did not start on some of the other things that were chosen by my cats in there, so I need to do that, which is the Dinosaur Lords. And then I also own the sequel, the Dinosaur Knights. These just seem to be, books about medieval dinosaurs. Like, it's medieval times. And there's dinosaurs. Literally, George R. R. Martin calls them Jurassic Park mixed with Game of Thrones. So, if you know anything about me, you should know that that's like an immediate buy. So I'm very excited. Speaking of things that are very dumb, this is Dinosaurs and Other Prehistoric Animals. Now, I'm not... this book might be good. I have not read this book. But the reason why I own this book is for a very dumb reason. So, in the American version of King Kong vs. Godzilla that came out in the 1960s, there is a scene that was filmed for the American audiences that was not in the Japanese original, but when they kind of adapted it for release in America, which is the one that's the easiest to see. Recently, Criterion finally did include a version of the Japanese cut of King Kong vs. Godzilla. Now that Blu-ray set has a lot of problems, and they did not release a great version of that cut, but regardless, that's a tale for another time. But specifically in the American version, there is a scene where these guys are at a big conference. They are on this space station, and a guy is explaining why Godzilla is stupid. And I know, I was mad about this too. But he brings out a big ape skull, and he's like, King Kong, very smart. And if you look at this book, and he holds up this book, and then he goes and flips through it to find a thing about the brains. And he's just like, yes, as you can see, Godzilla fucking dumb. Blah, blah, blah. And he shows the thing. And I was watching the movie, and I was like, how hard would it be to just find this book? Because I was like, maybe this would be very expensive and hard to find. But I got it for $10. And I was like, I guess no one is as big of a loser as me and want to read the book that a man chose to make fun of Godzilla in a 1962 movie. So I live a life, guys. My life is very exciting. I know. Footprints of Thunder. This is one of those books where it's like, oh, dinosaurs appear in the modern day. Cool. I'm down. Why not? Bones of the Earth. I think. Yep, so this is a time travel story with some dinies. Always got to get some dinies in your time travel story. Raptor Red, which is one of the more famous dinosaur books. I love this hollow cover. Look at that. I don't know if you can... I don't know if this is appearing well on camera, but it's just like a raptor being like... Meow. So this is all from a raptor's perspective. This is an entire book that is just from a perspective of a raptor. So, hell yeah. The Age of the Dinosaurs. Tyrannosaurus Rex. I think this is just one of those stories where, an explorer finds a place that there's still dinosaurs. I'll obviously be reading some of those. I've never actually read The Lost World by Arthur Conan Doyle, so I'm definitely going to read that. And I'm also going to read another very classic, very influential dinosaur tale, The Land That Time Forgot. Of course, I own a copy of The Land That Time Forgot with a movie tie-in version. And not just any movie tie-in version. The Doug McClure movie tie-in edition. This guy, if you've ever seen The Simpsons... Troy McClure on The Simpsons is a parody of this man, Doug McClure, who showed up in so many cheesy movies from the era that this was made. I believe it's the 60s. That version of The Land That Time Forgot is so funny. There are some real bad effects, but the actual acting is not super bad, and the story's kind of compelling. I'm also going to be listening to the other two versions in this settings, because Michael K. Vaughan was talking about this series of books, because he's a Edgar Rice Burroughs master man, and he is talking about how this is actually the first part. They released it in 3 chunks, but it is really just one book. So I'm excited to read that entire books. I'm excited to read the other ones, because this is super short. This is barely over 100 pages, so it's very obvious that this was a book split into 3. So excited to read all 3 and chat about those as well, because those are the very famous dinosaur tales. Carnivores. Now I know this has a big old what? No. You saying it's not a dinosaur? Yeah, I know it's not a dinosaur. This is a giant crocodile on the cover. I get it. I know. But it's supposed to be a prehistoric crocodile, and it's supposed to bring a whole bunch of other giant flesh-eating killing machines from prehistoric times. I'm assuming there's dinosaurs. If not, it's prehistoric crocodile eating things. Is that enough for you, Loomis? Are you good now? He's good. He's good. Ow, 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 ow. He's not good. I shouldn't have picked him up. Can you get off? Get off. Off. Thank you. Oh, now you're blocking the camera. They're here to see you anyways. It's fine. Next up, this is a short story collection called It Came From the Drive-In. I'm kind of doubting there might be any stories featuring dinosaurs in this, but there's a dinosaur on the cover. Short stories. This is another short story collection, Return of the Dinosaurs. I'm assuming this one's got some dinosaurs. If it doesn't, I'm going to have words with Martin H. Greenberg. I hope he's still alive. This is one that I showed recently in a haul, Monster Makers Incorporated, which is a toy Godzilla that saves the world. I'm down. So excited for that. Here's a weird one. Another Donald Glut book. This is Dinosaur Valley Girls, the novel. Beauties. and Beasts. Now, this is just a novelization of the softcore movie that Donald Glutt made. Like, look at this. Again, I was doing a big deep dive on Donald F. Glutt, and then I didn't end up doing that with the person who suggested it, and I just ended up with a bunch of Donald F. Glutt books, and that's probably the cringiest. Carbon dates. I'm pretty sure this is just Donald Glutt talking about famous dates. I don't think it's going to be very exciting, but hey, maybe it will be. Movie Monsters by Peter Haining. This is important because this has a version of King Kong from one of... So when the original King Kong came out, there were a novelization released with that. In conjunction, there were some radio plays. There was also a newspaper column in London that retold the story from like a different perspective. There were two different magazines. So there was a mystery magazine version recap. That version would later get kind of rewritten and retooled for a series of issues in Famous Monsters of Filmland. But there was another version of it, which was kind of like a mini novelization in a newspaper. And this is that version. And I'm just trying to... I don't remember... Okay, yeah, so this is actually from the Cinema Weekly version. So there was another version written for the magazine Cinema Weekly. So there's a mystery magazine novelization. It's kind of like a short story. It's like an abridged novelization. It's rewritten, and it's not a version of the original novelization. But there's like 3 different retellings of King Kong from that original 1933 date. This is actually one of the only places that you can get the Cinema Weekly version. That is one of the ones that's very hard to find. The Mystery Magazine one is also not super easy to find, but it's the more famous one. The Cinema Weekly one is not very famous, so it's kind of like a footnote in the King Kong legacy. So obviously I have to read it, have to track it down and read it. This is something that I was planning on eventually doing a giant video on just the history of the King Kong novelization, so I obviously got to read them. And since I'm reading The Lost World, I also have to, of course, read Dinosaur Summer. No more Hot Girl Summer. It's Dinosaur Summer. Hot Chicken Summer. So this is a sequel written by Greg Bear that is a sequel to The Lost World by Arthur Conan Doyle. But it also involves... people from King Kong. So for whatever reason, you got Ernest P. Schoedsack is showing up in this. You've got Mary C. Cooper in this. You have freaking Willis O'Brien appears in this book. So does Harryhausen himself. So there's like all of these like very, very interesting characters to this book that makes it a must read. So I've wanted to read this for a long time. Obviously, I want to read The Lost World first because this is kind of a sequel, so to get all the things. So yeah, those are just some of my dinosaur books. Those aren't even all of them. I have others, but I was like, I don't feel like taking them out. There's too many of them. And I've read quite a bit as well. So what was your most interesting factoid from this? Were there any? Did you stop watching 2 minutes ago? That's fair. Hope you have a good day and read some dinosaurs in March. It's March of the Dinosaurs.